Welcome to Montana's Commercial Real Estate Podcast. I'm Julian.Scurci here with my colleague Daniel.Miller at Svalinn Pure West, Montana's only commercial real estate firm that possesses both local knowledge and a national network. We decided to build this podcast because we both believe there is a tremendous opportunity in Montana, and we're surprised that there was not a show that interviewed business leaders, policymakers, and regional experts. This show seeks to be an exploration of the state of Montana's real estate market, business environment,
all right.
and serve as a
Welcome,
learning opportunity for us,
another
the guests,
edition
and
of
the
the
audience.
Montana Real Estate Podcast. Today, we are really pleased to welcome our friend Kim Greene. She is with Svalinn. It's a protective dog care breeder and service located in the Bozeman, Montana area. Kim has a really interesting background in public policy as well as entrepreneurship as a business owner in Montana, and we are really excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Julian, so much, and to you as well, Daniel. Really excited to be here with you today.
Kim, maybe to start out, I did reference you. You have a little bit of a unique and unorthodox background. I think you started your career in international development and public policy, and somehow you've migrated into being one of the premier dog breeders for protective service animals in the world. And I'd just love to hear more about that journey and, maybe what the genesis of the idea is, how you got to Montana, because I know you're originally from the East Coast, but maybe you could walk our audience through, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. I'll try to keep it succinct insofar as it's a long journey, as it were. Svallinn's been in existence 20 years now, so I have to actually think back into long history to think about what happened before that. So we are currently a female-owned, operated, and managed business based just outside of Bozeman in Livingston, Montana. And it's a very circuitous route that I got here. Born and raised, as you mentioned, in New England, from New Hampshire. Julian, you and I had this in common. We both attended Hamilton College in the Northeast, so that's pretty exciting. So from upstate New York, I did spend some time working on policy issues in Washington, D.C. back in the day as a one of those early day kids who was working on Capitol Hill, working for, policies that they believed in. So I was working on the US-Cuba issue at the time. So I actually got to travel to Cuba quite a bit, which was quite fun back in the day. From there, I was lucky enough to be accepted to the Princeton, what was then the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy. And fascinating in the journey, I was one of 9 students matriculating for my master's in public administration in the international relations major on September 10th of 2001. And everyone was teasing us that it was a dead major and the world had no use for such majors anymore. And the next day, September 11th, obviously proved that very wrong, as it were. So it just happened that I was beginning a 2-year master's program in public policy in international relations at probably one of the biggest tipping points in our nation, one of the large tipping points in our nation's history. So it was a very unique time and place, enjoyed my time in Princeton, New Jersey a lot, and was really focused on what I would do after that. I thought and Iraq kicked off in the meantime. So a lot of real world history happened, but I felt strongly about our mission in Afghanistan. So when I was finishing up my degree, I applied for a lot of jobs in Afghanistan. And I found myself in a really unique position being seconded to the Afghan government as a policy advisor in the Office of the President. That sounds a lot cooler than it really was, because suffice to say, they didn't really know what they were getting maybe in me. I'm blonde, I'm tall, I'm a woman, I'm Caucasian. So it was a great place for me to sit in time in history, but I spent a year there in Afghanistan. And what happened there was just, for the first time in my life, was probably really appreciating how challenged one's personal safety could be. Obviously, that was a very unique environment, but in some ways, some of the threats were not so atypical than what we see in a lot of environments these days. I did happen to meet the person that I would ultimately marry in Afghanistan, another American. We got married, we started a business, and ended up having children in 1 calendar year, so we called it a FedEx family. That brought us very briefly back to the United States, and then we decided to formulate a business in Nairobi, Kenya, that would provide protection, advising, training, and ultimately we brought the dogs in as part of our service package. So it's a long-winded way, jumping from country to country, that Svalinn, what is now known as Svalinn, was born. And so we provided a lot of different services originally as the company named Ridgeback. But what was really important is very shortly after landing in Africa, I became pregnant with twins. And I didn't want to carry a firearm in defense of myself. I couldn't legally. And as you're gaining weight, as you do in pregnancy, you start to realize once again that haze of I might not be able to caretake myself in a challenging security situation. So thus the product was born. I say that our dogs, Svalinn dogs, were bred out of necessity because I needed the product first and foremost. So fast forward our time in Africa, where we did start breeding, raising, and training family protection dogs. We cut our teeth. We made a lot of mistakes. We did a lot of things successfully. And in 2013, we transitioned the business to the United States. So since 2016, I have been here in Montana. We have the ranch out in Livingston, which is about 170 acres. At any point in time, we have about 42 to 50 dogs on the ground. And I'll pause there just because that's a lot of details, as it were.
I don't think you could have picked a better name for your whole reason for training dogs and getting behind it than Svalinn, which I love Norse mythology. I'm not very well read on it, but I absolutely love Norse mythology. So Julian, I don't know if you read up on that or not, but it's a Norse shield that shields the earth from the sun, which is, it's such a cool name to say that. And if any of our listeners, if they haven't been onto your guys' Instagram page yet, your dogs look so charismatic and they look so happy at what they're doing. So it's really something cool to look into.
Well, thanks, Daniel. And yeah, we take a lot of pride in that name. Most entities that do something similar, if they exist, usually have the name dog or canine in it. And we wanted something that was very powerful and that implied something greater than any one of us. The shield that protects somehow does. It's it really embodies everything that we do.
That's great. So your life has shifted. You mentioned between different continents, different roles, different industries. What's a strange habit or worldview that you carried, from Kenya or your policy work that influences how you run Svalinn today?
Oh, that's such a good question. And it sounds so generic this day and age, but I'll be forthright. Like, I'm about to turn 51. I've been in a lot of places where I had to kind of blend into the woodwork or act a little bit more demure or be very aware of not being overtly American at different times, just to do one's job and to be accepted by different communities and individuals that you might be trying to connect with. And I just feel like leading with authenticity and being true to who you are and being like expressing gratitude. Like, everyone you meet brings something positive for the most part. There are negative people out there, but really few and far between, most of them. And if you can approach the world that way, authentically being true to yourself and to others that you come into contact with, I just feel like whether that's your leadership style, how you parent, how you show up for your parents, and who you'd never know who you're going to get to cross paths with in a given day. And if you can go to bed feeling really positively about how you presented yourself to the world, I think there's no bad days.
I love that. Kim, there's so many challenges in being an entrepreneur and business owner, and there's also so many rewards. But I think all of us who've been business owners can relate to the fact that it can be a lonely journey sometimes, and there can be highs and lows both in the business and emotionally. I'm curious, you as a leader who's really built a lasting enterprise and has a number of employees, what are some of the things that you confront as a leader that you think about strategically, both in leadership as well as it relates to your business?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Julian. And I think that hopefully we're all learning as we go through our days. And as much as none of us really want to get old, I think there is a benefit of wisdom and having tried our hands at lots of different approaches. It occurred to me only a couple of years ago that in hiring and identifying individuals who will work with our team, it's really, we are looking for people with no different attributes than the people who are looking to ultimately sell our dogs to. And I don't know why that aha moment didn't come to me until a few years back. But when you're looking for the values that you want to see in individuals that you are choosing to work with, whether that's young people that you're training and you want to mentor, or people who might be buying a really expensive asset to join their family for a minimum of 10 years, you're still looking for the same values, as it were. And I think until I kind of put those two together, I feel like I've simplified how I get to approach things, because I now know that I'm looking for very similar characteristics in people on both ends of our, we're breeding, raising, and training dogs in-house. They will be with us for minimum of 2 years. Then we're hand delivering them to families. We're training the family in the operating system. So we're going to be in their home for at least 5 days. And then we're going to have a touch point with them at least once a year for a decade. And so really making sure that the people that you're bringing into your ecosphere, whether that's, a young college kid who's going to work with you half-time for a summer, or someone who's purchasing their 3rd or 4th family protection dog from you over 30 years, you're actually looking for very similar attributes, characteristics, and trusting your gut in how people are going to show up in the world. So that's not, I don't know if that speaks specifically to the leadership question, but I feel like the crossover became very clear to me a couple of years ago, and it's simplified things for me and my management style.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And maybe drill down a little bit more on both the recruitment side and retention of employees, as well as who your customer demographic is and how you're in that dynamic of how you're identifying them. Maybe could you speak to the fact of running a business and how you're recruiting and retaining talent in Montana, and maybe what makes Montana a unique for that, or positive or a challenge? And then maybe we'd love to learn more about how people are finding you as a customer demographic and how you're serving those needs.
Right. Great questions, Julian. And there's so much wrapped up in that. I feel like I need a whiteboard to organize all my thoughts. So first and foremost, what's fascinating is in this massively digital world right now, and we're an analog product. Like, we were essential workers during COVID. Like, we couldn't not show up. We've got 48 dogs in a barn, as it were. So the talent that I am seeking, I think, is often quite different when I look at all the people who have arrived in Montana post-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, and with digital work being possible. And we'll talk later about some of the industries that are going on in the state. It's fascinating. But the talent I am seeking is a little bit different than probably what most people might be looking for, because these are young people generally who really don't want a job that's behind a desk, and they need to be physical. Often I'm seeking out individuals who have ranch experience, physical labor experience. I'm actually not focused on individuals who have got previous dog experience. I'm looking to layer in our operating system, our approach, our methodology onto someone who has a real passion for connecting with animals. Often we get people from the horse world, or folks who have been vet techs before, or people who have just been really hard workers outside, as it were. But what's a fascinating point about our business is we're selling dogs at a very high price point, upwards to $200,000. And so you might think, oh, well, someone who's worked as a ranch hand, who's learned some dog handling skills, those people that I'm looking for to train up also have to have enough self-awareness, confidence, poise, connection with humans that they can also interact with very high-level individuals, because these are some of the team members that we will groom over time to hand deliver dogs to people's homes. So this is a very unique human that I'm seeking out, as it were. But they might not be folks who are looking to work with the Headwaters Tech Hub, or in quantum and photonics, or in biomedical. Those are some of our really big industries. People who are real estate agents. There's so much industry in Montana. So my challenges are mostly, in some ways, just that Livingston is located in a quite rural area. And And I'll be honest, post-COVID, real estate is booming in this region. And for local folks, that can be harder. It is a hard to access market for laborers or people who are just getting into their careers, as it may be. All of these lovely students who, I live about half a mile from Montana State University. I hope many of them can stay in Montana if they can afford it. That is a challenge. And so one of the pieces that our greater region really needs a lot of focus on is housing at various levels where people really can get into the market. I think what's been fascinating, I will speak a little bit to who our clients are. We have this fabulous statistic. Word of mouth is how people learn about Svalinn. I do a little bit of advertising, like we have a great Instagram page, and we have a lot of fun with what we do. We don't take ourselves that seriously. I feel like we show our regular everyday life and people resonate with it. But often it is word of mouth. This is a very curated product, if you will. We can only produce between 18 and 20 dogs per annum. We have so much more demand than we could possibly supply the world. And so often we are getting canine owners who are interested, and they're having to think 18 months to 2 years down the road if this is the type of asset that they would like to invest in. So we end up with people who are going to be patient because they know quality when they see it, and they're willing to wait for the right dog that fits their family lifestyle, and when they know that we actually have something we can deliver with the type of service we want to. So word of mouth for sure, but we've been lucky to be featured in magazines and periodicals and stuff. And I feel like often when someone sees a dog, they see, if people go, oh my gosh, is that a Svalinn dog? And they just have a very regal century style nature about them, and they're cool, calm, collected, obedient, stable, and they just have an appearance about them. And there's lots of lovely dogs out there, of course, many, many, many dog owners proud of their dogs, but these guys, a lot of them just stand out. So I do feel like often, I don't want to overstate it, but when it's the right connection, people find us.
That's great. That's great. You mentioned your dogs, and people can definitely tell them apart. And I know you guys breed your own dogs too. What is the number one breed that you guys are using?
Yeah, good question, Daniel. So part of our secret sauce, which isn't really a secret because it's on our website, but we don't use purebred animals. For 20 years, we have been crossbreeding German Shepherd lines, Dutch Shepherd lines, and Belgian Malinois lines. So if people look at the Svalinn website, it says in the dog descriptions, presents as, and it may say Dutch Shepherd. So I say presents as because effectively I call a dog what it looks like, but it will have attributes often of all three breeds because of our generations of lines. For example, right now, if people were to hop on our Instagram page, they would see 4 divine puppies that are 4 months of age. We have a lot of fun naming, so that's the barbecue litter. So we have Brisket, Hickory, Charcoal, and Smoke. 4 dogs from the same litter, Belgian Malinois mom, Dutch Shepherd dad, and they are 4 totally different looking dogs. Because they just, if we all had 4 kids today, they might look kind of different. So the beauty of the crossbreeding is, first and foremost, we're looking for genetic stability, right? We've never had hip dysplasia. We don't have ocular issues. Some of the traits that plague, unfortunately, purebred animals, we just don't have, or we test against those things before we breed, et cetera. So we're looking for longevity, a very healthy animal, but we're also looking for a temperament that is very even and eager to please. Malinois are lovely. I don't know if you've ever seen a purebred one, but it's a very special breed. And I don't ever want a full-blood Malinois that I have to take care of. I don't want a dog that's smarter than me. Just don't want that. So by crossbreeding, we really get to a little bit pick and choose. The mom usually drives the personality of the breeding. And so we're very lucky. We've got some young pups on the ground, and I'm very hopeful that, Riot's the mom. Like, I'm really hopeful that her personality is the primary personality in these puppies once they start to come online and work with us at about 6 weeks of age. So there's a lot of art and craft and a lot of having made mistakes in the past and having learned from our mistakes. And there's just a lot more science involved now. You know, when we were in Africa doing this years ago, we didn't have access to, now everyone else can do a 23andMe test for their dog. And we didn't have access to that years ago. So we're very old school and prescribed in our methodology in some ways, but we're trying to have a growth mindset about adding in new opportunities that exist from a scientific standpoint, as it were.
I'm looking at the barbecue litter right now, and they are the most adorable dogs I've ever seen. Like, you just want to just squeeze them. They're so cute.
And if you were to see their drive building work right now, they are 4 months of age, and they can sit still in a box, and they can seats, and they can plats, and they're very eager to please. And when you see their beginnings of their protection work, it's kind of jaw-dropping. It goes to show that we're not teaching them something, we're bringing out what is a natural tendency in them. It's pretty cool.
Kim, can you speak to, some of that nature versus nurture with the breeds that you're selecting to cultivate and develop? And, pardon my ignorance on the question, full disclosure, I have like a goofy Jack Russell rescue mutt that's who I don't think would he has skills, but they're not necessarily in the protective category.
Of course.
I imagine there's something special about the shepherds and the Malinois breeds that are predisposed to protective services. Could you maybe speak to that part of the canine genetics?
Yeah, Julian, it's such a good question. And I do have a soft spot for Jack Russells. Back in Kenya, most houses would have a large compound dog or two, something big and scary that would run around. And then there was always like a trio of Jack Russells behind those big dogs. So they felt like they should have been part of the mascots of international families in Kenya.
They're certainly smart and mischievous. That's all.
Oh, yes, they are. Don't want to say it, but your dog might be smarter than you, Julian. It's possible,
It's very, that's not a high bar, but it's probably true. Absolutely.
Yes, so you're hitting the nail on the head where we've chosen those breeds specifically for their desire to have companionship and work with a human, number one, their protective nature generally, and just their stamina for work, as it were. Those are some attributes that you could make generalizations about German Shepherd, Dutch Shepherd, and Belgian Malinois. The nature versus nurture piece is fascinating because, yes, there are some natural attributes there. Yet, when people say, oh, well, tell me about how your Malinois are or your Dutch Shepherds are, I always say, you have got to meet if we were having a discussion by phone about you having interest in Svalinn, the next step, if you don't seem horrible to me, the next step is you coming to visit the Svalinn Ranch, because just like all of us, all of our children, all of our family members, all of our friends are distinctive individuals. Every one of these dogs ends up being so unique and their own self, as it were. So when people say, well, what are the general traits of a German Shepherd? It's kind of like saying, what are the general traits of an American? Like, oh, I can make some generalizations, but would that sound that much different than an Italian or a French person necessarily? So what's fascinating about the nature and nurture piece is, and this is where we have so much fun with the breeding, it will be fascinating to see. I already have a sense that Charcoal, this barbecue pup, is just like his dad. And I love that dad so much. He is a replica of him at this age. And so there's only so much that we could do as a company to change that. I'm going to say with a dog like this, we don't want to change any of that. He is already the picture of perfection in my mind. And I will tell you that his little sister, Hickory, she's got chutzpah. She is a firecracker and she's got so much pizzazz. I'm like, oh my gosh, can we possibly give her enough nurture to unwind her a little bit to make her a truly saleable, family-oriented dog? So, and that's just an example of 4 from 1 litter. So we spend an inordinate amount of time. The dogs will get, I'd have to do the exact math now, but they're with us for 2 years, well over 1,000 hours of training in their time with us. We have a database, our CRM, we capture data on every dog at the tail end of every month to ensure that we're seeing different developmental milestones. And within a litter, you could have a 6-month time horizon that's very different for individual dogs. And they came out on the same day and they have the same parents. And so some dogs just need more awakenings in a socialization area. And then some dogs, I'll be like, whoa, we're at 6 months. We need to dial back the protection work or we're going to create something we don't want. So there's a lot of thoughtfulness that has to go into not just every litter, but like every individual dog. So there is the nature and there's the nurture.
So you mentioned people visiting the ranch and, people that are interested in one of your dogs. At what age of that dog do you start assigning that to a family? Is it right off the bat, like right when they're 4 months old, or is it more the tail 4 months of their training? Like at what point is it?
Oh, Daniel, such a good question, and it's changed a lot over the years. I'll be forthright. 2013 to 16, when we first relocated the business from Africa to the United States, I don't think I realized that we were going to effectively be a startup again. I was like, but we have this track record. Everyone loves us. Well, that was back in Africa. Nobody knew who we were in the United States. And it was lonely days for the first year or so. I mean, we're like, are we going to actually make a go of this? So at that point in time, we were building dogs to maturity. And it was like, if you had come in 2015, we could have lined up 10 to 12 ready to go adult dogs that we'd be like, Daniel, let's look at which one works for you best. And you'd see a fully mature, obedient, stable, protective dog that you would see their mature personality and you would be able to connect with that and decide. Those days are long gone, insofar as we have enough demand that people are often, like, we always have a couple of adult dogs that due to family circumstances, someone maybe couldn't take a dog that they had deposited on 18 months ago just because of illness, family change, whatever that might be. But generally speaking, people are depositing, like as we're having puppies in 2025, people are putting a reservation for a reservation deposit, as it were, which means that when the dogs get to be, so they might, pardon me. So people are putting, there's a wait list effectively for 2025 puppies that are being born. Once we know exactly how many puppies we have for 2025, we'll contact people and ask them in the order that they're in a lineup, would they like to enter into a purchase and sale agreement? But even then, it's for place in line for pick of the 2025 born dogs. We don't assign a specific dog to a family until at least 10, 11, 12 months of age. So if your family, Daniel, had deposited to be a place in line for pick of 2025, if you were number one, you'd be the first one to come out when those dogs were of that age, because we are collecting a huge amount of data on dogs as they're maturing. By the time they hit a year, we have a pretty good sense of who they're going to be, but we're not looking for agent error. We want this to be successful. We have a pretty good sense of who our clients are and the type of dog they need. And if someone lives in a high-rise apartment in Manhattan, they probably don't need, a dog named Roscoe who's 95 pounds, big Dutch Shepherd male. We could probably, we want to make it a correct fit for everybody all around. So we help people guide people in their decision process, and it's never before a year.
Kim, can we drill down a little bit more on who your customers are and some of the pattern recognition about both how you're finding them and they're finding you? You are a high-priced luxury item. You're a very specialized item and good. I hope I'm using the right language for that. Being sensitive to, it's a living creature. Are there certain parts of the country, certain professions, certain needs of the customers that are purchasing your animals that you're seeing over and over again, that they need it for corporate services or they need it for an individual? Maybe could you, if you, obviously with the confidentiality of your customers, just maybe speak broadly to that?
Yes, Julian, and I'm really glad you asked the question. Of course, we don't disclose who any of our canine owners are. If they choose to disclose that, that's up to them. But a most fascinating point about Svalinn is that most people who are investing in one of our animals are not individuals with death threats, living in constant fear. It is much less. I think people justify their visit to come and see us by thinking that this is a protective dog. And what every single person to a person says once they have spent time at the Svalinn Ranch is that they are blown away at how loving, stable, normal, dog-like the dogs are and how at ease people feel around them. And so what I would say as an important fact, the people who are investing in a Svalinn dog are individuals and families who are prioritizing their peace of mind and have a desire for a deep connection with an animal that is very well trained. And first and foremost, the dogs are stable, social, obedient, loving, good citizens that can go with you everywhere. They happen to have a very advanced skill set in protection. But I will tell you, we are up to about, I think we're now at 400 dogs that we have bred in 20 years. It's not a lot, it sounds like a large number, but it's not so many per annum as it were. We have had one dog in that 20-year span that has needed to deploy to create distance, space, and time for his family to move to safety. One.
Wow.
And so what that speaks to is the sheer deterrence nature of having a thinking, breathing, discerning, obedient dog by your side, whether you're at home, in public. And that, I feel like every cursory phone call I have with someone, that it's a showstopper. People assume that they're going to have to manage this really crazy, you think about, okay, everyone's seen John Wick, those dogs are crazy, nobody wants to manage a John Wick dog every day. I mean, well, maybe some egomaniacs do, but I don't. I mean, who would want that much energy? And that's where the crossbreeding comes in, right? So most of our canine owners are folks who might have initially come to us because they feel like they can justify the price tag because this is a protector. And if you get any one of our canine owners talking about their dog, I don't think there's a dry eye in the place because people have developed next level rapport, connectivity, and relationships with these animals that even if they've been dog lovers their whole lives and they've had lots of dogs, it is just a next level relationship. And that is the essence of Svalinn. And so it's hard to state who the clients are because I think they come to us with this idea of security and protection and how much am I willing to pay to ensure that nothing happens to my family? And then everybody's just like, everyone's a kid around our dogs. So I'll pause there. I don't know if I've even answered your question effectively, but it's always, that's why it's so much fun to have people visit the ranch because I think they're like, okay, we need this protection and I feel anxious and we had a home invasion when we weren't home and there's a lot of organized crime going on in the United States. It's shocking. Like what I learn about on these phone calls, it's reminiscent of stuff that was happening in Africa 15 years ago when I was there at a much higher level, a much more organized level. And it has a lot of people very anxietous, rightly so. And it's a peace of mind, it's a guardian angel, and they're not robots. They are still dogs. They need your connection. They need your attention. They need to go out to poop. There's just regular dog stuff that goes on there. But I feel like the more education we can do of our prospective buyers in advance, we do a good job of getting the fit right. And we're not for everybody, and that's fine because we just don't even have enough assets for the whole market, as it were. So it works out pretty well.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, thank you for sharing. That makes a lot of sense. You speak a lot about the special place where it's the place of your business, the ranch, and this is a real estate podcast. Daniel and I have some experience with real estate and whether it's land or existing buildings. Maybe can you talk about the sense of place that your ranch provides as a facility and a business, and maybe how that helps your business succeed and thrive as a location, and maybe how you think about utilizing that as an asset for your business?
Yeah, Julian, it's a great question. It's we're so privileged to live in this area, and we're so privileged to work in this area. And what I love is that anyone that works this Svalinn has voted with their feet to live here, to be part of the community. Whether our team members live in Livingston, which is where the ranch is located, or live in Bozeman and they go over the pass daily. Sense of place is really important to all of the people who are a part of the Svalinn team. I will tell you that before COVID, if we had a phone call and I said, well, the next step is for you to come and visit us in Montana, literally there would be complete crickets on the other side of the phone. I mean, people were like, wait, where? Is that near Colorado? This was only a couple of years ago. This wasn't that long ago.
Really? Wow.
And so how much changed in the COVID world in so many ways, but particularly, of course, for the real estate market in the Bozeman area, but in the greater Montana region. And I'm not going to lie, the show Yellowstone has everybody captured. And so for better or worse, if the next stage is I say, well, the next step is for you to come to Montana, people say, oh, great. I've been waiting to get out there. It's almost like you have to say, whoa, not tomorrow. We need to schedule you. But the difference in 5 years is staggering. And so as far as and the number of our canine owners, I'll be honest, that had come to the Svalinn Ranch years ago, chosen their dog, had a bit of connection to here. During COVID, this is where they came and purchased property. And I do think that just the digital economy in general allowed a lot of people to move into this region, because we were very fortunate, despite a significant, challenging global pandemic. We have natural social distancing built in. Like, the last thing we were ever going to do is put on social media what I could hike or do. I could do anything I wanted on any given day, which felt like embarrassing given how friends and colleagues were having to work in San Francisco or New York or Boston, wherever it may be. So I do think that the cat is out of the bag for sure. I am actually part of an organization, a 40-year-old not-for-profit called the Montana Ambassadors. And they've been, this idea of bringing good business and having business partnerships with companies that might come to Montana. It's no longer a sell. It's like some of the coolest, pointiest end of the spear businesses in the world are here. And partly it's because you can build out a team, and it's a place that people want to live. And quality of life, I believe, is something that nobody is going to turn up their nose to anymore. I think if anything, the pandemic and just so much of the challenges that our country and our world has experienced in the last few years, we're prioritizing important things. And quality of life, and part of what Montana offers, is one of those. And that's just like the Svalinn Ranch is this little microcosm of that. On the way home, any one of our team members can go cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, trail running with their dog, go on the river. I mean, we have nature at our doorstep all the time. And for anyone that works with us, that fuels them as individuals.
Maybe just because you alluded to it, you're part of a nonprofit that it really is, bolstering and singing the praises of Montana and wooing businesses and attracting businesses to the state. Yourself as a successful entrepreneur and business owner, what do you see, or if you had a wish list for what you could have in terms of either public policy or that your challenges that you're confronting as a business owner? What are some of the things that you would like to see, change in Montana to help your business and other businesses thrive and have the state grow in that economic manner?
Oh, that's such a good question. Montana is a very worker-friendly place. And even though I am the employer, I actually appreciate that. Having come from Kenya, where obviously workers' rights might not be of top priority for some people, I feel like it's a very fair and humanitarian place to engage with your workers. And I compliment the state on how much they kind of have always prioritized that for employees. As far as my particular business, I don't have a lot of needs or wants that are different than right now. But I guess because I've just come from this Montana Ambassadors annual convening, I'm just super aware of some of the policies that need to come online for when I think about renewables, and I just think about the demands on our natural resources in the coming period of time with AI and our mega centers that we're going to need for electricity and computing and whatnot. I think about vaccines and things that we might need. So the biomedical, the Headwaters Tech Hub, I'm just blown away by how many smart, capable people are here in our region. And I've gotten to meet a lot of people who are working on really important pieces of legislation with our state legislature as well as the national legislature. This is a time of massive education. I think it's easy to say no as a legislator to a lot of things, but I think it's our job, as whether we're civilians or we're in the policy field, as it were, but we can't assume that our policymakers know everything overnight. We are in such a fast-paced land right now in so many areas that I've met a lot of people when it comes to Department of Transportation and energy and these types of things, where they're spending a lot of time educating policymakers. And if we don't know as civilians and we're kind of educated humans, we can't assume they know because they're responsible for lots of things. So I think there's a period of grace, education, synthesizing information, incubating it, and then making some really important policy changes that will bring things online that our entire economy will need in Montana and beyond.
That's great. You mentioned a nonprofit, and although I was never in the military, I was a contractor for the DoD for about 10 years. I worked with a lot of service members. And since you're a woman of many, many caps, as they say, tell us a little bit about the Commit Foundation.
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. I was married to a veteran for many years, and the veteran service organizations that I am connected to are very near and dear to my heart. I've been on the board of the Commit Foundation for probably 7 years now, and this is an organization that places tremendous value on the skill sets that folks who have served our country in this capacity have. And so often, as people are transitioning from a military career to a civilian-oriented career, they might undervalue themselves. They don't know how to necessarily translate their skill sets that they had in one part of the US society to the civilian sector. And so there's a huge amount of trying to work with people to find their true purpose post-military career, whether that's a 6-year tour, whether that's 10 years, or maybe someone's been in 30 years. But they've got so much value to bring to our country and our communities. We want to ensure that people are very purposeful, thoughtful, deliberate, and educated about how to transition effectively that fills their buckets, not just on paper. So often someone will come out of the service and go directly into contracting just because it feels so similar. But is that really what makes that man or woman the wholest human they can be? And let's be honest, our country needs a lot. We need great community leaders. We need great community church leaders. We need leaders of businesses, and we need people who think outside the box. And some of the greatest people to think outside the box have been in another sector for a lot of years. So ensuring that they find purpose post first service is really important, but I think we all benefit from people landing in a really good career or volunteer position or community position where they can bring so many of their skill sets that they learned in their service in the military to our various communities. So that's effectively what the Commit Foundation does with lots of different tools. And it's something I care tremendously about and will always be involved with.
Awesome. That's very, very well said. And if anyone listening that wants to know about that, it's commitfoundation.org if they want to learn more information on that foundation.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate it, Daniel.
Kim, you've been extremely generous with your time. We want to be thoughtful about your time. So we'll wrap up. We have some fun questions that we try to end every interview with, more about just learning more about what you really enjoy about your Montana. So, I know as a fellow twin parent, you have some, your twins. What are some things that you like to do with them to explore Livingston? If there are any other businesses you would like to shout out that are places that when people are visiting Livingston, they should check out as fellow entrepreneurs. What makes you happy in your way of living in Montana?
Oh, I love that question. Yes, I have twin boys who are 19 years old, and skiing and biking are our jams. Like gravity sports are what we do. I was fortunate enough to just complete a 5-day mountain bike race, my third big race in Switzerland. And on almost every trail I was on in the Alps for 5 days, I kept thinking about segments of trail that I've ridden with my boys here in Montana, that it felt just like that. So that's super fun. And I'm counting the days till ski season. So I love my biking, love my skiing. The boys and I do a lot of fun stuff. And Mountain Straps is probably one of my favorite brands. A friend owns it, but it's originally, it's ski straps for your poles that are beautiful local artists that get commissioned for all of those. And also the owner creates dog collars and leashes. So, and this is someone I ski with regularly, and we ride the chairlift together, and he's an entrepreneur, and we kick tire a lot on business stuff. So that, and then their favorite business is North Bridger Bison. I like to support as many of my local CSAs and folks who are raising food right here in our valley. And my friend Matt, they both happen to be Matt's. They're doing farm raised bison, and we do a quarter bison a year, and it's pretty epic.
Beautiful, beautiful. So awesome. You mentioned skiing. 1996, I think it was the last time I was up to Bridger. Skied that a long time ago. Is it still a small little resort feel, or has it grown exponentially since then?
It is absolutely still a small resort feel, and the cat's out of the bag. A lot of people moved here, and it is still like we all have our Bridger passes. We're all ready to go. The first snowfall, we'll all be hiking before the lifts open. So it is the heart and soul of Bozeman, period. So it would feel very familiar to you, and you'd be like, wow, a lot of people have learned about this place because it's that good.
Yeah, we did Big Sky, Bridger, and I think Great Divide. Yeah, Great Divide. And the smaller ones, I mean, Big Sky was something to see, but those smaller ones are just so much better skiing. I love them.
We actually did one of the litters. So we name our litters by themes. We have a lot of fun with it. So like we did the barbecue litter. We also have like the country music stars. We've got the whiskeys. But we did a ski resort litter not so long ago in Showdown, Montana. Showdown was one of the dogs that we had. We also did Cannon from Cannon, New Hampshire. But Showdown, Great Divide, Bridger Bowl, I mean, these areas are just next level. I mean, I grew up skiing whaleback in New Hampshire.
Sure.
Montana has got more fabulous kind of not-for-profit or family-oriented, family mom and pop shop ski areas than probably anywhere in the lower 48. And people will do road shows just to hit these mom and pop small resorts, because even using the word resort feels ridiculous with them. The skiing's that good, and the culture is just next level. So we'd welcome you back, Daniel.
Yeah. And shout out to Showdown too. My sister is in Great Falls, and coming from Bozeman, met her family there, and what a special mountain. I think akin to Bridger, when it just gets shellacked with snow. I mean, no one should feel bad about Julian. If I never ski another day in my life, I've skied a lot, and that is a special mountain that's just in like this. I don't know if it's upstate New York, Hamilton meteorological area for snowmelt, but it's up there for anyone who wants to see a special independent mountain that's off the beaten path in the Belt Range. That is a great spot.
And female owned, operated, and managed.
We would welcome to have the owners of Showdown. You're welcome on the show anytime.
I can help you make the connection. They're great. There's
wonderful.
So many good businesses and entrepreneurs in this region. So we could talk all day about other shout outs, but I want to be mindful of your time.
Well, great. Well, Kim, thank you so much. For our listeners, if they want to both get in touch with you to learn more about your business, to learn about Svalinn, how would they find you? How would they reach out to purchase one of your special animals? and how would they support you and your business?
Oh, thanks, Julian, for asking. We're on, our website is Svalinn, Sierra, Victor, Alpha, Lima, India, November.com. And we're on the Instagram platform as well as Facebook as Svalinn Working Dogs. And honestly, liking us on social is the best thing anyone can do, because our website's quite informational and people can start the process there of garnering information. And they can always reach out by our contact submission form, because we love what we do and we love sharing it with people.
Amazing. Thank you, Kim. We really appreciate your time. Look forward to supporting you and your business and seeing you on the ski slopes of Montana soon.
Sounds great, Julian. Thank you to you and to Daniel. Really enjoyed talking with you both today.
Thank you, Kim.
Take care.
This show is for information and educational purposes only. It is not a solicitation to buy or sell real estate, securities, or any other investment. The views reflected in this show are solely those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of SVN Pure West, SVN Inc., or any other business or organization mentioned. If you'd like to contact the show's hosts, you can do so by email at Julian.Scurci at svn.com and Daniel.Miller at svn.com, or by visiting svnpurewestcre.com.